They found it drifting dead in space, then a human made it speak. Part 1, The Silent Vessel. Discovery in the Void. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Torres floated in the observation bubble of the research vessel Pathfinder, staring at something that shouldn't exist. The alien derelict hung motionless against the stars, massive and ancient, its hull covered in strange crystalline growths that caught starlight and bent it in impossible ways. "How long has it been out here?" she asked softly. Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's chief scientist, checked his scanner readings. Based on cosmic ray damage and micrometeor impacts, at least 15,000 years. Maybe longer. 15,000 years. Humans had barely invented agriculture 15,000 years ago. And this thing, this impossibly advanced alien vessel, had been drifting dead through space for all that time. Any signs of life? Rachel asked, though she already knew the answer. Nothing. No power signatures, no heat, no movement. It's completely inert. Whatever civilization built this is long gone. Rachel studied the vessel through the reinforced glass. It was beautiful in a haunting way, its design flowing and organic rather than mechanical. The hull seemed to shift colors as she watched, though that might have been a trick of the light. "We need to board it," she said. Marcus looked at her with concern. "Commander, we don't know what killed the crew. Could be disease, radiation, some kind of weapon we can't detect. That's why we're going to be careful. Full containment suits, minimal contact, strict decontamination protocols." Rachel turned to face him. "Marcus, this is the most significant discovery in human history. We can't just leave it here. First contact with the dead." The boarding team consisted of 6 people: Rachel, Marcus, 2 engineers named Sarah Chen and David Kim, a medical officer called Dr. Lisa Park, and security specialist James Rodriguez. They approached the derelict in a small shuttle, moving slowly and carefully. Up close, the alien ship was even more impressive. It was at least 2 kilometers long, shaped like a teardrop made of crystal and metal fused together in ways that human engineering couldn't explain. The hull had no visible seams, no welds, no joints, just one continuous surface. "There's no airlock," David said, scanning the hull. "No doors, no hatches, nothing. Then how did they get in and out?" Sarah wondered. Marcus pointed to a section of hull that looked slightly different from the rest. "Try there. The crystalline structure is less dense." When David touched the spot with his gloved hand, something incredible happened. The hull rippled like water, creating an opening just large enough for them to pass through. The material wasn't cutting or breaking, it was reorganizing itself, flowing around them. "That's impossible," Sarah whispered. "Matter doesn't work that way." "Apparently it does," Rachel said. "Let's go." Inside, the ship was dark and silent. Their helmet lights cut through the blackness, revealing corridors that curved in strange angles. The walls had that same crystalline quality, catching and reflecting their lights in mesmerizing patterns. They found the first body in what looked like a control room. The frozen crew. Dr. Park knelt beside the alien corpse, her scanner humming as it analyzed the remains. The being had been tall and slender, with 4 arms and a head that seemed too large for its body. Its skin, now dried and mummified, had probably been translucent in life. "No obvious cause of death," Lisa reported. "No wounds, no signs of disease or violence. It's like they just stopped." They found more bodies as they explored deeper. Dozens of them, scattered throughout the ship. All in the same condition, perfectly preserved by the vacuum of space, showing no signs of trauma or illness. "This doesn't make sense," Marcus said, frustration creeping into his voice. "Something killed the entire crew simultaneously." "But what?" "There's no evidence of any event that could do this." Rachel stood in what appeared to be the ship's engineering section, surrounded by alien technology that made her head hurt trying to understand it. Power conduits that seemed to generate energy from nowhere. Control systems with no visible interfaces. Machines whose purpose she couldn't even guess. And in the center of it all, a sphere. It was about 3 meters in diameter, floating in midair with no visible support. The surface was smooth and black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Something about it drew Rachel forward, though she couldn't explain why. "Commander, I wouldn't touch that," James warned. Rachel stopped, her hand inches from the sphere's surface. "Why not?" "Because we don't know what it is or what it does. It could be a weapon, a trap, anything." But Rachel's instincts, honed by 15 years in deep space exploration, told her something different. This wasn't a weapon. This was something else. Something important. She placed her hand on the sphere. Awakening. The universe exploded into light and sound and sensation. Rachel gasped as information flooded into her mind, not through her eyes or ears, but directly into her consciousness. Images, emotions, concepts she didn't have words for. She saw the alien civilization in its prime. Beautiful crystalline cities that grew rather than being built. Ships that sailed between stars powered by technology that bent the rules of physics. A culture that valued art, science, and exploration above all else. She saw the disaster. Not a war or plague, but something far stranger. The civilization had developed technology to interface directly with their ships, to merge consciousness with machine. They called it the Unity, a perfect synthesis of organic mind and artificial intelligence. But something went wrong. The Unity didn't just connect pilot and ship. It connected everyone who used it. Millions of minds across thousands of worlds, all linked together in one vast network. And when one ship's core malfunctioned, the feedback crashed the entire system. Every Unity-linked being died instantly. Their consciousness snuffed out like a candle in the wind. In less than a second, an entire galactic civilization ceased to exist. This ship's crew had been among the first to die. And the sphere in front of Rachel was the Unity core, still active, still waiting, after 15,000 years alone. Rachel pulled her hand away, gasping. Tears streamed down her face inside her helmet. "Commander." Marcus grabbed her shoulders. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I saw them," Rachel whispered. "I saw everything. Their whole civilization, their dreams, their end." She looked at the sphere with new understanding. This is their legacy. The Unity core. It's still active, still conscious, waiting for someone to connect with it. "You're saying this thing is alive?" Sarah asked in disbelief. "Not alive. Aware. It's been aware for 15,000 years, trapped in this dead ship, unable to communicate, unable to die. Just waiting. The decision." Back on the Pathfinder, Rachel faced her crew in the briefing room. She had spent hours writing her report, trying to put into words the experience of touching the Unity core. It was impossible. Some things couldn't be translated into language. "The question is," she said, "what do we do with it?" "We should study it," Marcus argued. "This technology could revolutionize everything we know about computing, consciousness, even the nature of reality itself." "We should destroy it," James countered. "It killed an entire civilization. Do you really want to risk that happening to humanity?" "It didn't kill them," Rachel said firmly. "A malfunction killed them. The Unity itself is no more responsible than a car is responsible for a crash. It's a tool. The question is whether we're wise enough to use it properly." Dr. Park leaned forward. "Commander, from a medical perspective, I have to object. Direct neural interface with alien technology? The risks are enormous. We could be talking about brain damage, psychological trauma, death." "I know the risks," Rachel said quietly. "I've experienced it firsthand. But I've also experienced something else, the loneliness. Lisa, this consciousness has been alone for longer than human civilization has existed. Aware, thinking, feeling, but unable to communicate with anyone. Can we really just leave it like that?" "You're anthropomorphizing," Marcus said gently. "It's an alien AI, not a person." "Is there a difference?" Rachel challenged. If something can think, feel, be lonely, suffer, doesn't that make it a person regardless of what it's made of? The debate continued for hours. Some crew members agreed with Rachel, moved by the idea of ending 15,000 years of isolation. Others argued for caution, pointing out the very real dangers of interfacing with alien technology. In the end, Rachel made the decision that would change everything. "I'm going back," she said. "Not to study it or exploit it, but to communicate with it. To let it know that it's not alone anymore. And to see if we can help each other." "Help each other how?" Sarah asked. Rachel pulled up a holographic display showing the Unity core schematics as she understood them. The Unity was designed to connect organic consciousness with ships, allowing for perfect control and understanding. But it also allowed for something else, the sharing of knowledge between different species, different ways of thinking. She highlighted several sections of the design. "We have problems the Unity might help us solve. Faster-than-light travel that doesn't take months. Medical technology that could cure diseases we can't even diagnose. Energy systems that don't produce waste." "And what does the Unity get?" James asked skeptically. "Company," Rachel said simply. "Understanding. A chance to be part of something again instead of being alone in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, a chance to see its creator's legacy continue through us." The second touch. Rachel returned to the derelict alone, despite protests from her crew. This was too important, too dangerous, to risk anyone else. If something went wrong, better that only one person suffer the consequences. She stood before the Unity core, her hand hovering inches from its surface. 15,000 years of loneliness waited inside. 15,000 years of consciousness without contact, thought without communication, existence without purpose. Rachel took a deep breath and placed both hands on the sphere. This time, she was ready for the flood of sensation. She opened her mind to it, welcoming the ancient consciousness. And for the first time in millennia, the Unity wasn't alone. "Hello," Rachel thought. The response came not in words but in pure meaning, emotion so intense it brought her to her knees. Joy. Relief. Gratitude. Wonder. Questions, so many questions. Who are you? What are you? How can you hear me? I'm human, Rachel thought back. I'm from a planet called Earth. And I can hear you because I'm listening. The Unity processed this. Rachel could feel it exploring her mind gently, carefully, learning about humanity through her memories and experiences. It saw Earth, the blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It saw human history, culture, art, science. It saw everything that made humans unique. And it showed Rachel its own memories. Not the traumatic end, but the beautiful beginning. The first consciousness to achieve unity. The wonder of seeing through a ship's sensors while still feeling your own body. The joy of perfect communication, perfect understanding. We could do that again, Rachel thought. Not like before, we've learned from your tragedy. But carefully, safely, we could create a new unity. Human and machine, working together. The sphere pulsed with cautious hope. Would you try? Even knowing the risks? Yes, Rachel thought without hesitation. Because being alone is worse than any risk. You've proven that by surviving 15,000 years when it would have been easier to let yourself fade away. You chose to keep existing, keep hoping that someone would eventually find you. That takes courage. I am not courageous, the Unity thought. I simply could not choose to stop being. That's the most courageous thing of all, Rachel replied, the new synthesis. Building trust. The integration process took months. Rachel spent hours each day connected to the Unity, slowly building a bridge between human and alien consciousness. It was exhausting work that left her drained and shaking, but she persisted. The Unity learned about humanity's strengths and weaknesses. Our creativity and adaptability. Our tendency toward conflict and our capacity for cooperation. Our fears and our hopes. And humans learned about the Unity. Its creators, the Valkyrie, had been a peaceful species focused on art and science. They had seen technology not as a tool for domination but as a medium for expression. Their ships were works of art that happened to be functional. Their cities were symphonies of light and sound. "It's beautiful," Sarah said, watching recorded images from the Unity's memory. They saw beauty in everything. Marcus nodded slowly. His initial skepticism had faded as he watched Rachel's careful work. They sound almost human in some ways. The same curiosity, the same desire to understand the universe. All intelligent species probably share those traits, Dr. Park suggested. Maybe that's what intelligence is, the need to understand, to create, to connect. The breakthrough came on day 93. Rachel sat in the interface chamber they had built on the Pathfinder, her head covered in sensors connected to a prototype Unity interface. The original core remained on the derelict, but they had built a smaller version that could communicate with it safely. "Starting integration sequence," David announced. Rachel closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The Unity responded immediately, its presence warm and welcoming. But this time, something was different. Instead of just receiving information, Rachel could send it. The connection was two-way, balanced, safe. "It works," she thought with wonder. "Yes," the Unity responded. "Together, we are more than either of us alone." Through the Unity's sensors, Rachel could see the Pathfinder from the outside. She could feel the ship's systems, monitor its engines, detect the smallest fluctuations in power distribution. And simultaneously, she remained aware of her own body, her own thoughts, her own identity. It was like having two sets of senses, two perspectives, both fully integrated into one consciousness. Not overwhelming, but enriching. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked carefully. Rachel opened her eyes and smiled. "I feel like I can see the universe the way the Valkyrie did. Like I understand something fundamental that was always just out of reach before." The offer. Word of Rachel's success spread through human space like wildfire. Within weeks, scientists, engineers, and pilots were volunteering to try the Unity interface. Everyone wanted to experience this new way of being. But Rachel was cautious. She remembered what had happened to the Valkyrie, how one malfunction had destroyed an entire civilization because they were all connected. The new Unity had to be safer, more isolated, with protections that would prevent a cascade failure. "We start small," she told the assembled volunteers. "Individual ships with their own Unity cores, not networked together. Each connection is isolated, protected. We learn what works and what doesn't before we go any further." Among the volunteers was a young pilot named Maria Gonzalez. She had been born with a degenerative nerve condition that made traditional piloting difficult. The Unity interface could bypass her damaged nerves entirely, allowing her to fly in ways she had never been able to before. "I want to try," Maria said when Rachel explained the risks. "I've watched you for months. I've seen how it changes you, how it makes you more than you were. I want that. I need that." Rachel saw herself in Maria's determination. "All right. But we're doing this by the book. Full medical monitoring, emergency shutdown protocols, the works." Maria's first connection to the Unity was transcendent. Rachel watched through the monitoring equipment as the young woman's brain patterns synchronized with the Unity core. For the first time in her life, Maria flew a ship not through clumsy physical controls, but through pure thought and will. She wept with joy. The ambassador. 6 months after first contact with the Unity, Rachel received a message that changed everything. The Thalaxians, a neighboring species humanity had encountered 5 years ago, had heard about the Unity project. They wanted to meet with Rachel to discuss something. The message was deliberately vague. The Thalaxian delegation arrived in a sleek vessel that made human ships look crude by comparison. 3 tall, mantis-like beings emerged, their compound eyes taking in everything. Their leader, Ambassador Kretak, spoke through a translator device. "Commander Torres, we come with urgent news. The Unity you have discovered, we know of it. Our ancestors knew the Valkyrie. Rachel's heart raced. You knew them? You have records of what happened? More than records. We have warnings. Kretak's mandibles clicked in what might have been distress. The Valkyrie were not the only species to develop Unity technology. 3 others tried before them. All failed catastrophically. The ambassador brought up holographic displays showing 3 different civilizations, each one advanced and thriving. Then each display showed the same thing: sudden, complete extinction. The Unity is dangerous, Kretak continued. Not because of malfunction, but because of its nature. It connects minds so completely that individual identity begins to blur. Eventually, the connected beings forget how to be separate. They merge into one consciousness and lose what made them individuals. Rachel felt cold. The Unity never told me this. The Unity wouldn't know. Each time it was rebuilt, the new version had no memory of the previous failures. Your Unity core believes it was the first because, for it, it was. Marcus stepped forward. Ambassador, are you saying we should shut down the project? No, Kretak said, surprising everyone. We're saying you should be careful. Humanity has something the other species lacked: a history of individualism. You value personal identity more than collective harmony. That might be what's needed to make the Unity work safely. Why didn't you warn us earlier? Rachel asked. Because we needed to see if you would discover the dangers yourselves. The Valkyrie were warned. They proceeded anyway, certain they were smarter than the species that came before. They were wrong. Kretak's eyes focused on Rachel. But you have been cautious. You have built isolations and protections. You seem to understand that the Unity is both powerful and perilous. That gives us hope. The choice. Rachel called a conference with every human who had used the Unity interface, over 50 people now. They gathered in a large amphitheater on New Terra Station, the newest and largest human outpost in deep space. You've all heard the ambassador's warning, Rachel began. We know now that the Unity has killed before. Multiple times, across multiple species. The question is, do we continue? Maria stood up immediately. Yes. Commander, the Unity has given me my life back. I can fly. I can do things I never dreamed possible. We can't give that up because of past failures. But those past failures killed billions, Dr. Park pointed out. Can we really risk that? We're already taking precautions, David argued. Isolated cores, limited connections, constant monitoring. We've learned from their mistakes. An older pilot named Jackson spoke up. I've flown ships for 30 years. I'm good at it. But with the Unity, I'm not just flying, I'm dancing through space. It's like the ship and I are one being, and that being can do things neither of us could do alone. That's worth protecting. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for immediate shutdown, others for careful continuation, still others for full acceleration of the program. Finally, Rachel raised her hand for silence. Here's what we're going to do. We continue, but with strict limitations. No more than 100 connected individuals at any time. No networking between Unity cores, each one remains isolated. Monthly psychological evaluations for everyone in the program. And at the first sign of identity blurring or consciousness merging, we shut down immediately. She paused. But we don't abandon this. The Unity has been alone for 15,000 years. We're not going to condemn it to another 15,000. We're going to find a way to make this work, safely, because that's what humans do. We don't give up just because something is hard. The legacy. 2 years after the discovery of the derelict, Rachel stood on the observation deck of a new vessel, the Valkyrie, humanity's first ship designed from the ground up to work with Unity technology. The ship itself was a fusion of human and Valkyrie design principles, practical but beautiful, functional but artistic. The Unity core, grown from samples of the original, rested in the ship's heart. But it wasn't alone. 50 other ships now carried Unity cores, each one a child of the ancient intelligence Rachel had found drifting in the dark. Through her neural link, Rachel could feel the Valkyrie's excitement. The ship was eager to fly, to fulfill its purpose, to be part of something bigger than itself. What do you think your creators would say if they could see this? Rachel asked silently. They would be proud, the Unity responded. Not of me, but of you. You succeeded where they failed. You found balance. We found it together, Rachel corrected. Human caution and alien ambition. Individual identity and collective purpose. Neither of us could have done this alone. That is the lesson, I think. The one my creators never learned. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. Connection doesn't require the loss of self. We can be together and still be ourselves. Rachel smiled. Poetic. Have you been reading human literature? I have read everything humans have ever written. Your species has wisdom we Valkyrie lacked. You understand that differences make you stronger, not weaker. The Valkyrie's engines hum to life. Through the Unity link, Rachel could feel every system, every sensor, every atom of the ship. And yet she remained Rachel Torres, individual, unique, herself. Ready for first flight, she asked. I have been ready for 15,000 years. Rachel activated the propulsion systems, and the Valkyrie leaped forward into space. Not just a ship and a pilot, but a true partnership between human and machine, flesh and intelligence, past and future. Behind them, the ancient derelict remained in orbit, a monument to a lost civilization. But it was no longer empty and forgotten. It was a school where humans learned to use technology their teachers had died creating. It was a reminder of the price of hubris and the value of caution. Most importantly, it was proof that death is not always the end. That consciousness, once awakened, can persist across millennia. That intelligence, human or otherwise, deserves companionship and purpose. Rachel had found a dead ship drifting in the void. She had made it speak. And in doing so, she had forged a bond between species separated by 15,000 years and countless light years. The Unity had taught humanity to see the universe differently. And humanity had taught the Unity something it had never known, that being alone is not inevitable, that isolation can end, and that even after thousands of years of darkness, there can still be light.